In this video, I'm going to be showing how to use a ProcessBook display. Well, it might seem pretty self-obvious. You just look at a display and you absorb the information because ProcessBook builds very vivid dashboards and displays. But there's also the sense of there's a lot of things you can do as just an operator who's not constructing displays, who's just using a display. So to begin with, let's go and open up one of the basic, here it is, displays on PyProcessBook. Now this book file is available on any PyProcessBook installation by default. So when you install PyProcessBook, this will be there. It's a file, pydemo.piw, that opens up and includes a number of different displays and tabs. And we'll talk more about this book format later. But to begin with, I'm going to be clicking on the Refinery tab, and I'll find main column bottom. This is a very classic display that's included in every PyProcessBook installation, so you have it too on your system. So find main column bottom and follow along with me, and we'll look at some of the things you can do with PyProcessBook. So when it opens up, and I just double-clicked, I get a window here, and I can maximize it by pressing the Maximize Window button. We get right in here. Great. Now, to begin with, PyProcessBook is designed to be able to show you information in this graphical format. It often can mimic a control screen or simply be a map of your facility, but it's meant to have people absorb information from it. Just looking at it visually, I get to know what's going on. And I can scroll through time. So if you see this, I'm moving through time and all of my values will change. Now on this particular PyProcessBook display, all of the items that are connected to values are all connected to the same source. It's a tag called sinusoid, a pi tag. And a pi tag, if you're not familiar, a pi tag is a single stream of information. So you can think of it like the temperature maybe on a column at the bottom, right here. Maybe that's one tag of information. And another tag would be the temperature at the top if you had two different sensors. Now you'll notice there's a lot of different ways we can show information in PyProcessBook. We have trends. We have bar graphs, we have just plain little values, numbers, and there's a few more, but those are the basics. And those are available when you're building from this menu here. Now otherwise, the way to navigate time in a PyProcessBook display is you'll grab this bar here and you can scroll through. Or alternatively, if you have a particular day or time in mind that you want to see, you can click here. Change display range, and you can type in a particular day. So if I want to know what was happening on the 1st, I could type in the 1st here. And it'll go to that time. Or if I want to know what was happening over the last 8 hours, I could use something called PyTime abbreviation, where star represents right now, and -8 means from right now till 8 hours ago. So I know that this is showing me the last 8 hours. There's a lot of different types of PyProcessBook displays out there. This is just one of them. They're very customizable, and so you'll see a lot of different things. There's less of a rule here. So this one has more different images and is more just number showings of information. We can also have displays that have buttons that allow you to move between displays. And what's exciting is I can have displays that allow me to show many different elements all at once. So in this display, here we go. In this display, I have two different sets of areas over here, Area 1 and Area 2. Very generic, and it can fit anything that you're doing right now. So just imagine that units are some particular kind of equipment that you're interested in. I can have a ProcessBook display that allows me to click between different units. So these could be different refrigerators, if I had many different refrigerators at a plant. Maybe they're different pumps, maybe they're different heat exchangers. And my one PyProcessBook display will show the information for that in the same format. Now one thing you'll need to know about using a PyProcessBook display is that it's not building a PyProcessBook display. You'll see right here there are two modes. There's building and running. If you're only interested in using a display, you're probably going to be using running. And if you're ever interested in building or customizing displays yourself, you'll be using the build mode. That's that little pickaxe. There's also options to customize the language in PI ProcessBook, and we're not going to show those here. You'll see a whole set of toolbars at the top, and these can be moved around and hidden. If there's too many of that you want, you can simply hide them. So I hid the IT overview earlier, and we can hide formatting bars to really cut it down. And if you really want to just show just PI ProcessBook, you can use this button, the full screen mode button, to go into full screen mode. And then everything is hidden except for the display itself. This is useful if your machine is dedicated to PI ProcessBook and looking at the process from there. Then you won't need to have all this other stuff going on the screen. All right, and if you click it again, you'll come back to the mode with all the toolbars on top. Okay, so back to main column bottom. So let's say that somebody has given you a PI ProcessBook display and you want to know what's in it. Well, you can hover over any one of these items that you see, and it will show you information about what is feeding data to that number right there. In this case, it's the tag sinusoid on the server pipes. That's what that means. It also gives you some really basic statistical information over the last 8 hours. In particular, it gives you over this time range here, from here to here. It's giving me the minimum and the maximum. Also, I can also see what the time range is right there for the calculation. Similarly, if I hover over a bar chart, I'll get the same tooltip. You can double-click on a trend, and you'll get to know more about that trend. So let's say you're given a trend and you want to dive into a specific spot because this trend is really small. Well, to begin with, you can double-click on the trend, and we'll go full screen or full ProcessBook screen. From here, we can do nifty things, like we can press the minus sign down here and we can zoom out, or we can press the plus sign and zoom in. We can drag a box and zoom into a particular spot on the ProcessBook display. And if we press this circular arrow button, it'll revert back to the default. We can scroll backwards in time and forwards in time. And if we want to do some really precise measurements of what's going on at a particular spot on this trend, we can slide our mouse all the way over to the left till we get this symbol, click, and drag out a trace. And I can move this trace around, and you'll see I know the exact time at the bottom and the exact value at the top. I can drag out multiple traces if I want to. I can then use my arrow keys if I want to be extra precise. Furthermore, you can see the value, the time values at the bottom here, and there's a legend on the right side traditionally with what values are actually being shown in the trend. If you double click on the trend, you'll go back to your display. All right. Now let's say you have a particular value that you want to know more about. So in this case, I have a particular value. So this is the target, and I want to know more about this target here, this target value. To do that, I can go to View and Details, and a Details pane will come up on the right-hand side. And when I click on one of these, maybe I want to know the point attributes, statistics. This allows me, if I know some more about Pi system administration, these values might be of interest to me. If not, you don't need to worry about it. Statistics. So there's some statistics over the last 2 hours. And data. If I ever want to annotate a value, so let's say I want to make a note about this value here, that it's suspicious or maybe it's really good, I can highlight it, and then down at the bottom here, I think I might need to have a tag to do that. I can select a value, so now with this one I can select a value, it's a sinusoid tag, and I can write in any value I want, and I can save it. Once I save it, it's actually written to the tag. So you see now there's a small annotation symbol right there. And we'll see if we zoom in on the trend, PI ProcessBook has noted that there's an annotation at this time, right here, this time. If I want to export the data to a file, I could copy it to clipboard or save it to a file. And if I copy it to a clipboard, I can then paste it into a notepad file if I wanted to, or an email, or copy it to Excel if that's what I wanted. If you're copying it to Excel, I would just advise using DataLink, our Excel add-in, which is very powerful for Pi data in DataLink, in Pi data in Excel. And now let's say one last thing. Don't save. Let's say you have a lot of Pi ProcessBook displays and you want to keep track of them, and it's a little bit tedious to have to search through your whole list and just select them and remember which name you're trying to get to each time. Well, that's what a Pi ProcessBook file is for. So you'll notice in here, in this Pi ProcessBook file, this is a collection of displays. I can go to my Refinery tab and I see there are multiple displays here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can double click on any of these and go to that display. Once I close it or minimize it, I can go back to my book. Oops, that's not the book I wanted. This is the book I wanted. I can go back to my book and double click on another one and open that display. This allows me to navigate between displays really easily and allows me to store all my displays as one file, as this Pi ProcessBook file, the PIW file. You can also create bookmarks for yourself. So say that this display is one I really like a lot. I might add it as a bookmark. That's bookmark. And if I click on my bookmark organizer, I can see bookmarks that I have bookmarked, and I can quickly switch between them. So maybe if your facility has dozens of Pi ProcessBook displays, or just more than you really want to use, and there's only 5 that you use, you might save them as bookmarks and then use this bookmark browser to be able to switch between them. We can also add buttons between displays to navigate between them. So, for example, in this display, let's see here. Aha, here we are. In this set of displays, we have buttons meant to be able to navigate between displays. So here's one display, and in run mode I can go say, I want to know more about that boiler there, and I can dive into it. And I can have all the information about the boiler. And it looks like I can actually link into other displays as well. So if I want to know more about the feed water system, because that seems to be impacting what I'm seeing right here, I can click on this button, and it will bring me to the feed water system display. And if I'm finished reading the values I want out of here, I can click the return and come back up to the display I was before. And these buttons are easy to configure and can allow you to link displays together, and you won't need to search for any files or remember any names. You'll be able to visually navigate your displays, and you'll be able to customize these buttons where they are and what they link you to. They're very easy to build. So that's the basics of running a Pi ProcessBook display. From here, it's meant to absorb information. I can double-click on trends, see more about them, I can navigate between displays, and I can hover over values to get information about that particular value.